Hello and welcome in a new video. My name is Wahid Anwar. If you have ever wondered why some project schedules fail while others succeed, so the answer is often simple: the rules behind the schedule. A schedule is not just a list of dates and activities, it is the heartbeat of project. If the schedule is weak, the entire project suffers. So, in this video, I will walk you through the golden rules of the project scheduling. These are proven practical and internationally recognized practices that make schedule reliable, transparent, and realistic. Okay. So, by the end of this video, you will not only understand how to build a strong schedule, but also how to avoid the common mistakes that project managers make. Okay. So these are not just theoretical, they are practical rules that help us to build schedules that are reliable, realistic, and easier to manage. So if we don't follow these rules, our schedules may look good on paper but will fail in execution. So let's begin our journey toward mastering the project scheduling rules. So let's start. Okay, so first, rule number one, scheduling methodology should be documented and approved. So define tools, software, reporting methods, then clarify control period and performance metrics, get stakeholders approval, etc. Here you can see I have also mentioned here the references from the books, okay, from the different books. Okay, so before starting any scheduling work, it is very important to establish a clear methodology. So this means you should define which tools and softwares will be used and how reporting will be done and what format will be followed. Okay, so you also need to clarify the control periods, whether progress will be monitored weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, and what performance metrics will be applied, such as progress percentage, earned value, or milestones achievement. Okay. So finally, this methodology should not stay only with the planner. It must be reviewed and formally approved by the project stakeholders. So this ensures that everyone agrees on how the scheduling schedule will be built, monitored, and controlled, which avoid confusion later in the project. So now let's talk about rule number two. The schedule should have a complete scope, cover 100% of project work, and then include deliverables, quality, and risk response, etc. And it should not be incomplete schedules. Okay, so a reliable schedule must cover 100% of the project work. That means it should not only include the main construction or engineering tasks, but also supporting activities such as deliverables, testing, quality control, and even risk response. Many schedules fails because they show only part of the work. For example, if risk mitigation activities or handover tasks are missing, so the schedule will look shorter or more optimistic than the reality. Okay, so to avoid the surprises and delays, you should complete your schedule, and it should be realistic, aligned with the entire project scope, and nothing should be left. Okay. Okay. So next is the rule number three: level of effort. Okay. So Uh, level of effort, you can see under the level of effort supporting tasks, for example, supervision, PM, and admin, and should not be critical, should not show the variance. Okay, so level of effort, or you can say LOE activities, are supporting tasks. Okay, so These are not direct projects deliverables, but they are necessary for the smooth execution. For example, project management, supervision, or administration. Okay, so when using a level of effort activities in your schedule, so keep in mind two important points. They should never drive the project's critical path because they don't directly produce deliverables. Okay, so they also should not show the variances, or you can say the differences. Mean their progress should match the main project activities they are linked with. Okay, so in short, level of effort activities provide the structure and support, but they should not distort the actual picture of the project performance. Okay, so next, moving on, the rule number 4, activity naming rule, and it should be unique name. Each activity must have a unique name. Avoid the confusion with the duplicate labels, etc. Okay, I have just given here the examples that every activity should have unique names and unique ID, etc. Here you can see I have just highlighted these tasks. Okay, so every activity in schedule must have a unique and a meaningful name. So this practice avoids the confusion and makes the schedule easy to read, track, and report. If you use duplicate or the different labels or missing labels, or you can say the vogue labels, so it create a misunderstanding for the project team and stakeholders. For example, if two activities are both named simply, you can say the excavation, so no one will be know which area or scope each one refers to. Okay, so always make sure activity names are clear, specific, and unique. So this is a simple rule, but it, you can say, greatly improves the accuracy and usability of your schedule. So whenever we will enter here the task, yeah, for our project schedule, we should have the unique name for all the tasks, and we should have the unique activity IDs. Okay, you can see here. By the way, in Primavera P6, we will have the unique IDs. If you will use the by default, it will be start from the 1000, then 1010, then 1020. Okay, okay. So next, let's look at the rule number 5, activity naming rule. Use verbs, action. So show action, for example, prepare drawings, WBS deliverables, activities equal to action. So activity names should always describe an action. For example, instead of writing just a drawing, so it should be prepared drawings, or you can say review drawings. Also, this makes it clear what work is being performed. Remember the difference, please. WBS elements represent the deliverables and what needs to be produced. Activities represent the action and how what deliverable will be achieved. Okay, so by the following this rule, your schedule becomes more precise, easier to understand, and align with the good project management practices. Okay, so next we have rule number 6. Each activity should have predecessor and successor except start milestones, no predecessor except finish milestone, no successor. Ensure full network connectivity. So, in a well-built schedule, every activity should have a logically connected to the others. This means each task must have at least one predecessor and one successor. Okay, there are, on the start, if we will have the start milestone, so there is no need for the predecessor for the start milestone. And when we will have the finish milestone, so we will not need a successor for the finish milestones. Okay, so by ensuring full network connectivity, your schedule becomes more reliable. Okay, and it prevents the open-ended activities and allow accurate critical path calculation. So without these links, your schedule may look disconnected and fail to show the true flow of work. Okay, so we should follow these rules. Okay, so next, now you can see we have here the rule number 7, no dangling activities. Okay, you can see at the start and finish must influence other tasks, dangling, breaking logic and focus. So you can understand from these pictures. Okay, here we have the dangling start, then dangling finish. You can see here. Here we have, here we don't have any link here. You can see, and again I have just make a to start. Then here you can see here we don't have the finish, so then I just link with the finish to finish. So this is the example here. Okay, so a good schedule must contain activities that start or finish without influencing other tasks. So these are called dangling activities, and they break the logic of the schedule. So our schedule should have a proper logic. Okay, so when activities are the dangling, so you can say the critical path and forecast becomes the unreliable because the system cannot correctly calculate the impact of delays or progress. So the best practice is to make sure every activity has a proper logical ties and to keep dangling activities to less than 1% of the total schedule. So this ensures a long schedule integrity and the reliable forecasting. Okay. Okay. So next we have rule number 8. Okay, so under rule number 8, you can see prefer finish to start relationship at least 90% finish to start. FS most natural and realistic, and use the milestones for complex logic. Okay, so in scheduling, there are different types of relationships, but the finish to start is the most natural and widely accepted. It simply means one task must finish before the next one can start. Okay, so as a best practice, at least 90% of the activities in your schedule should have been linked with the finish to start logic. So this makes the schedule easier to follow and more realistic and less risky. Okay. For more complex situation, a link when multiple tasks overlap. So you should use milestones to simplify the logic instead of creating unnecessary complicated links. So in short, FS relationship make your schedule clean, reliable, and easy to communicate. Okay, so we should link the activities more than 90% using FS relationship. Okay. So next we have rule number 9. So avoid start to finish relationships. According to PMI discourage, then you can say Department of Defense. Actually, this is one. DoD is the U.S. Department of Defense. Forbid completely. Okay, so you can say rarely realistic. So in scheduling, the start to finish relationship is, you can say, rarely used, and it, you can say, is almost never realistic in the real project environments. Okay, so that's why major bodies like the PMI strongly discourage this, and the US Department of Defense even forbids it completely in project schedule. So using SF means start to finish can make the logic confusing and can distort the critical path. And the best practice is simple: avoid start to finish relationships entirely, and rely on more natural links like the finish to start instead. Okay, so after that, we have rule number 10, leg rule: avoid long legs. Okay, so replace the long legs with the activities, then long leg, reduce the schedule transparency. Okay, so in scheduling, a lag is simply waiting time between two activities, while the short lags can sometimes be acceptable, but long legs should be avoided because they hide real work and reduce the schedule transparency. So instead of using a long leg, replace it with a proper activity that clearly describes what is happening during the time. For example, curing concrete or material late period. So by doing this, the schedule becomes more accurate, easier to monitor, and much clearer, for the stakeholders. So I have here the very simple example. You can see I have just put here the 50 days lag. Okay, so this is not acceptable actually. And here in the bottom, you can say I have just entered here the sample task. You can see here, and I've just give you the example. Even a task should not have 50 days. Okay, the duration should not increase more than to 44 days. But I just give you the example that you should not have a long duration task, and you should not have the long lag as well. Okay, so I have just give you the example. You should I have just covered the long lag with the sample task. Okay, so, like this, we should avoid the long legs and replace the long legs with the task or activities. Okay. Next, we have rule number 11, leg rule. Minimize number of legs. You can see here. I have added here the example. So it should be less than 5% of activities should have lags. So improve logic clarity. Okay. So a lag is simply a waiting period between two activities, like when you pour concrete and then wait 3 days before starting the plastering. So while lags can sometimes be useful, using too many of them makes the schedule messy and harder for everyone to follow. So a good practice is to keep lags below 5% of your total activities. Instead of adding a lag, it's often better to create a separate activity that shows the waiting period, such as drying time or curing time. Okay, so this way the schedule is more transparent, easier to explain, and the logic is clear for all the team members. So the fewer lags you have, the easier it is to manage and communicate the project plan. So next we have rule number 12: minimize lead in bracket. You can see it's we use lead for overlapping activities. So avoid large overlap, like the finish to start minus 10, then finish to start minus 15. So this is the example in bracket. So break activities instead, then harder to manage it in a real life. So a lead is when one activity starts before its predecessor is fully completed. For example, starting 10 or 15 days early with the relationship like FS, uh, then while this may look efficient on paper, in reality, large overlaps or lead are risky and harder to manage. So instead of using big leads, it's better to break down activities into smaller, and it will be more manageable task. So this way, the schedule reflects the real sequence of work and avoid unrealistic assumptions. So always keep overlaps to a minimum and use activity breakdown for better clarity and control the schedule. Okay, so next we have rule number 13, float rule, non-active float. Negative float means schedule will be unrealistic, then it indicates the missing or misapplied logic. So here you can see I have just add here the example for negative lag. Okay, so when we talk about the float, so float is the flexibility available in schedule, but when you see negative float, it's mean something is wrong. So negative float usually indicate unrealistic dates, missing logic, or contents that are misapplied. Okay, so according to the PMI standards, negative float should not appear in well-developed schedule. So it's a clear signal that the schedule logic or deadlines need to be reviewed and corrected. Okay, so in short, if you see negative float, so do not ignore it. Fix the logic and make the schedule realistic. Next, we have rule number 14, float rule. Avoid long float, and you can see here in a bracket that it should not be more than 44. So long float or weak logic, then break activities into smaller chunks. Here I have just added here the task with the high float examples here. High float due to the missing predecessors. Okay, so if you notice activities with very long flow, it usually means that the schedule logic is weak. So it suggests that the activity is not well connected to the rest of the network, and its timing doesn't really matter to the overall project schedule or a project plan. So the best practice is to break these activities into smaller, more detailed chunks. So this makes the schedule more realistic, easy to monitor, and better align with the actual project flow. So remember, long float, the signals poor logic, refine the activities to improve schedule quality. Okay, so next we have rule number 15. Do not split the activities. Splits actually creates confusion in logic. So we should break the two separate activities instead. Okay, so at least sometimes planners try to split one activity into two parts with the same bar. For example, showing a work paused and then resumed later. So, but this practice create confusion in the logic and creates some, and makes the schedule harder to read and analyze. So here we have the example that activity you can see here. I have just crossed here activity with the split. You can see here. So relationship to the cause of the pause you can see here. So we should not split the task. Okay, so the better approach is simple: break the activities into two separate tasks with clear names and proper relationships. So this keeps the schedule transparent, accurate, and much easier to control. So we avoid splitting activities and always model them as a distinct well defined task. Okay, so next we have rule number 16, date constraints. Okay, so constraints should be rare, and too many constraints mean schedule will be unrealistic. So in project scheduling, constraints are used to lock activities to specific dates. While this may seems helpful, using too many constraints actually makes the plan unrealistic and rigid. So, as a best practice, hard constraints should be limited to 5% or less of the total activities. So most of the schedule should be are driven by logic and relationships. So not by fixed dates. Okay, so when we use overused constants, so constants block the natural flow of the schedule and prevent the system from calculating the real critical path. So remember, use constants only when truly necessary. Keep them rare and let the logic drive the plan. Okay. After that, we have here rule number 17, date constants. Use milestone instead. So replace hard constants with milestones. Milestones visible and manageable. Okay. So here you can see I have just highlighted these milestones. You can see here. Okay, one and two. So whenever possible, avoid locking activities with hard constraint. Instead, use milestones to present key dates, deadlines, or you can say the contract requirements. So milestones are visible, easy to manage, and flexible, while constraints can hide logic problems and make the schedule too rigid. Okay, so by using milestones, you keep the schedule realistic, transparent, and aligned with the good scheduling practices. So always remember, milestones are your best tool to managing important dates, and then much better than filling the schedule with hard constraints. So next we have here rule number 18: avoid long durations. So maximum duration we should have 44 days, not more than 44 days. Okay, so break long activities into smaller tasks. Here you can see high duration tasks. We have two here. So here you can see we have 50 days, then we have 45 days as well here. So activities should not be planned with very long durations. As a best practice, keep the maximum duration at 44 working days or no more than two control periods. So whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly reporting. Okay, so if an activity is too long, it becomes difficult to monitor progress and identify delays. So the solution is to break long activities into smaller, more manageable tasks. So this way, the schedule becomes more accurate, easier to control, and provides early warning signals if the project is drifting off track. Okay, so now move next. Next, we have here rule number 19: use a consistent duration unit. Okay, so stick to one unit. I mean, days recommended. Avoid mixing days, weeks, months. Here, I have a very simple example. You can see uh, WBS element one activity, activity one, activity two, activity three. First activity have 1 month, second activity have 3 days duration, 3 weeks duration, third activity have 3 days duration. So it will be confusing. So here you can see we have this straightforward example. WBS element one activity one will take 22 days, then b sorry activity 2 will take 15 days, activity 3 will take 3 days. So in project scheduling you must always stick to one standard unit of duration. Okay, and we should use one standard unit of duration. If you are using weeks, so you should use the week but for all the activities. If you are using days, so you should enter the duration in days for all the activities. Okay, so mixing different units like days, weeks, and months in the same scheduling create confusion and makes reporting consistent and can even confuse the calculation errors. Okay, so So by keeping all the duration in one unit, usually days, the schedule remains clear, accurate, and easy for all the stakeholders to interpret. So remember, consistency is key. So one unit of time across the entire schedule makes your plan reliable and professional. So we should not enter the mix units for duration. Okay. So after that, we have rule number 20, work breakdown structure. So here you can see deliverable based, follow 100% rule, a clear separation. Okay, so a WBS should always be deliverable based, meaning it represents the project outputs, not the action. And it must also follow the 100% rule, and which means that the WBS should capture the entire project scope without leaving anything uh, out of the context. Okay, or you can say out of adding the unreal or unrelated work. So and finally, always keep a clear separation for the WBS and activities. So WBS elements represent the deliverables. I mean, what needs to be produced, and activities represents the action, and then it's mean how these deliverables will be achieved. So by applying these rules, your WBS becomes a strong foundation for building a reliable schedule. Okay, so in the last we have conclusion. So now let's wrap up with the golden rule of scheduling. So golden rule of scheduling: a good schedule must be realistic, logic driven, resource aware, continuously updated, etc. Okay, so no matter how advanced the software or how detailed the plan, a schedule only adds value if it meets some key qualities. So a good schedule must be realistic. It should reflect what can actually be achieved, not just what looks good on paper. Okay, so it must also be logic driven, meaning activities should be connected with proper relationships. So the schedule follow the rules, and schedule should be correct. Okay, so next, the schedule should be resource aware, considering manpower, equipment, and cost, because a schedule without resources is only half the picture of your schedule. Okay, so and finally, it should be continuously updated, because projects are the dynamic, keeps the schedule correct to ensure it remains a reliable tool for decision making. So remember this golden rule. The schedule is only useful if it is realistic, logic driven, resource aware, and continuously updated. Okay, so these were the scheduling golden rules. I hope everything is clear. So thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next video.